The sand was still wet with blood when Kira's world changed forever. She crouched behind an overturned merchant cart, fingers pressed against her ears to block out the screaming. The attack had come at dawn, Ronan's forces pouring over the dunes like a plague of locusts, their war cries echoing across the Sunstone territory. The old Alpha had finally made his move, and her pack was losing. Kira wasn't a warrior. She was nobody, an orphan who cleaned the Alpha's mansion, who kept her head down and her mouth shut. She had no business being on this battlefield. But when the fighting had erupted in the market square, there'd been nowhere to run. A body hit the ground 3 feet from her hiding spot. One of their warriors, throat torn open, eyes already glazing. She swallowed bile and looked away, focusing on the distant horizon where the sun was just beginning to burn through the morning haze. Just stay hidden. Stay quiet. Survive. Then she heard it. A sound that made her wolf stir uneasily in her chest. A wet, rattling cough, followed by a groan of pain so raw it bypassed her fear entirely and went straight to her healer's instinct. Someone was dying. Her mind screamed at her to stay down, to stay safe. But her hands were already moving, grabbing the medical pouch she'd been carrying when the attack started. She'd been heading to tend to Elder Mira's arthritis. Now the herbs and bandages felt pathetically inadequate against the carnage surrounding her. The groaning came again, weaker this time. Kira made a choice she'd regret for the rest of her life, however long that turned out to be. She ran. The fallen warrior lay in the shadow of the great fountain, his blood turning the sacred water dark. But it wasn't one of her pack. The insignia on his torn leather armor was all wrong. A crimson wolf's head, fangs bared. Ronan's mark. The enemy. She should have kept running. Should have let him die, alone in the dust. But when she got close enough to see his face, her breath caught. He wasn't some grizzled warrior or bloodthirsty rogue. He was young, barely past his prime, with silver streaking his dark hair at the temples. And his chest had been torn open by claws, deep gouges that revealed white bone beneath shredded muscle. He was drowning in his own blood, each breath a wet wheeze that said death was seconds away, not minutes. "Help me." The words were barely a whisper, his pale eyes finding hers with desperate intensity. One hand reached out, trembling, and she saw it then, clutched in his fist, still glowing with residual power. The Alpha's artifact. Kira had only seen it once, years ago, when Ronan had paraded through their territory, in a show of dominance. It was an ancient thing, older than the packs themselves. A sphere of carved bone and crystal that pulsed with the concentrated essence of Alpha power, the ability to command, to dominate, to lead. Every Alpha was born with natural authority, but the artifact amplified it 100-fold. Take it. Blood bubbled at the corner of Ronan's mouth. His eyes were beginning to fade, that terrible glaze of approaching death filming over the desperation. Don't let Cassia. His hand spasmed. The artifact rolled free. Kira's hand shot out on instinct, catching it before it hit the ground. The world exploded. Power slammed into her like a physical blow. A tidal wave of pure, overwhelming force that picked her up and shook her like a doll in a dog's jaws. She tried to scream but couldn't draw breath. Her vision went white, then gold, then red as every nerve in her body ignited with sensation that went beyond pain into something entirely new. Alpha! 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 The word thundered through her mind in a voice that wasn't hers, wasn't Ronan's, wasn't anyone's. It was the voice of the artifact itself, ancient and terrible and absolute. Power transfers. Blood accepts. Bond forms. No! She tried to say, but the word died in her throat. She felt Ronan die. Felt the exact moment his spirit severed from his body. Felt his alpha essence tear free and pour into her like molten gold through her veins. It was agony, and ecstasy, and violation all at once. Her wolf rose up howling, not in pain, but in sudden savage triumph. Every wolf in the territory felt it. The fighting stopped. Kira collapsed to her knees in the bloody sand, the artifact falling from her nerveless fingers. Her whole body was shaking, every muscle locked tight with the aftershocks of whatever the hell had just happened. She could feel something burning beneath her skin, could feel her wolf pacing and snarling with new strength that didn't belong to them, shouldn't belong to them. She raised her head slowly, heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst. Every warrior in the square, both Sunstone and Ronan's forces, had stopped fighting. They were all staring at her, and the looks on their faces, fear, shock, recognition. One of Ronan's warriors fell to his knees, head bowed. "Alpha," he whispered. "No, no, no, no." "Alpha." Another voice, stronger. More of Ronan's pack dropping to their knees, submission rolling off them in waves so thick she could taste it. Kira tried to stand and couldn't. Tried to speak and couldn't. The power coursing through her was too much, too big, too overwhelming for her body to contain. She was going to explode. She was going to burn up from the inside out. A woman's scream cut through the shocked silence. "What have you done, Cassia?" Ronan's mate, widow now, Kira realized with numb horror. The beta female pushed through the crowd of kneeling warriors, her face twisted with rage and grief. She was beautiful in the way of all high-ranking wolves, tall, strong, her blonde hair pulled back in an elaborate braid that hadn't been disturbed despite the battle. "You killed him!" Cassia's voice was raw with accusation. "You stole his power!" "I didn't—" Kira's voice came out wrong, deeper, resonating with an authority that made even Cassia flinch. "I was trying to help." "Liar!" Cassia's shift was instantaneous, bones cracking, fur sprouting as she lunged in her wolf form. Kira threw up her hands instinctively. The world went silent. Not quiet. Silent. As if someone had pressed a mute button on reality itself. Cassia's wolf froze mid-leap, her eyes going wide with confusion. Around them, every wolf who'd been about to shift suddenly couldn't. The ones already in wolf form stumbled, whining in distress as their connection to their beasts flickered and died. Kira felt it then. A void opening up around her. A sphere of absolute nothing that extended 10 feet in every direction. And within that sphere, magic simply stopped. No shifting. No alpha commands. No bond connections. Nothing. She stared at her raised hands in horror. The skin was glowing faintly, a silverish light that pulsed in time with her racing heart. "Anti-magic," someone breathed, one of the older warriors, his scarred face gone pale. "The legends are true." Cassia shifted back to human, stumbling as if drunk. "What are you?" Her voice was barely a whisper now, all the rage burned away by fear. Kira lowered her hands slowly. The moment she did, the void snapped closed, sound rushing back in, magic flooding back into the air like water through a broken dam. Wolves shifted with relieved gasps, reconnecting with their beasts. But the damage was done. They'd all seen what she could do. "I'm nobody," Kira said, hating how her voice shook. "I didn't want this. I didn't—" "You're Alpha, now." One of Ronan's warriors, a grizzled male with more scars than fur, rose to his feet with obvious reluctance. "The artifact chose you. The power transferred. That makes you Alpha of Sunstone Pack, whether you want it or not." "I don't," the words burst out of her. "I can't. I don't know how to lead. I'm not—" "You're wearing Ronan's power," the warrior interrupted. His voice was flat, emotionless. "That makes you our Alpha by blood right. We're bound to you now. All of us." Kira looked around at the sea of faces, some angry, some confused, some carefully blank. Nobody looked happy. Ronan's warriors knelt in submission, but their eyes held resentment. Her own pack members stared at her like she'd grown a second head. This was insane. This was wrong. This was going to get her killed. The ceremony must be held at sunset, Cassia said coldly. She'd regained her composure, though her hands were clenched so tight her knuckles had gone white. By pack law, you must claim the territory officially before the moon rises, or the power will tear you apart from the inside. Kira's stomach dropped. What? The artifact amplifies alpha essence, but it needs an anchor, a territory bond. Without it, the power has nowhere to go. Cassia smiled, and it was a terrible thing. Ronan spent 20 years building his tolerance. You have... She glanced at the sun. 8 hours. Maybe. That can't be... It's already started, hasn't it? Cassia took a step closer, her voice dropping to something almost gleeful. The burning. The feeling like your skin doesn't fit right. Like there's too much inside you. Kira's silence was answer enough. You'll be dead by nightfall unless you claim the territory, Cassia said simply, and I'll be there to watch you burn. The messenger arrived 2 hours before sunset, riding a horse half dead from exhaustion. Kira was in what used to be Ronan's study, now apparently hers, though the thought made her want to vomit, trying to understand the territorial maps spread across the desk. The burning Cassia had mentioned was getting worse. It felt like she'd swallowed the sun, and it was trying to claw its way out through her skin. Alpha! One of the guards, she didn't even know his name, knocked on the doorframe. Someone to see you. I don't want to see anyone. Her hands were shaking so badly the map blurred. How was she supposed to do a claiming ceremony when she couldn't even hold a piece of paper steady? He says he can help you survive the next 8 hours. That made her look up. The man who walked into the study was unexpected. Tall, probably 6'4", with the kind of build that spoke of a lifetime of combat training. His hair was black as a raven's wing, pulled back in a short tail at his nape. But it was his eyes that caught her. Pale gray, like winter ice, and utterly unreadable. He was also absolutely covered in scars. They traced across every visible inch of skin, his hands, his neck, disappearing under his collar. Some were old and faded. Others looked recent, still pink and puckered. You're the one who stole Ronan's power. It wasn't a question. His voice was deep, rough around the edges, with an accent she couldn't quite place. I didn't steal anything. Kira's hands clenched on the desk edge. He was dying. I tried to help. And in helping, bound yourself to an artifact that's currently cooking you from the inside out. He moved further into the room with the predatory grace of a born warrior. You've got maybe 6 hours left before your organs start shutting down. 5, if you're unlucky. Who are you? Call me Daemon. He pronounced it Daemon, with emphasis on the first syllable. I'm a mercenary, specialized in, he gestured vaguely, impossible problems. And you just happened to be passing through when I accidentally became an alpha? I've been tracking Ronan for 3 months. Daemon's expression didn't change. He had something I needed. Now you have it. The artifact. Kira's eyes dropped to the sphere sitting on the desk where she'd left it. It had stopped glowing, but she could still feel it humming with power. A power that was slowly killing her. What do you want? She asked tiredly. To help you survive the claiming ceremony. Why? Because if you die, the artifact goes dormant for a decade. I don't have that kind of time. At least he was honest. Kira studied him more carefully, noting the way he held himself, weight balanced, hands loose at his sides, ready for violence at a moment's notice. Everything about him screamed danger. What's your plan? She heard herself ask. The ceremony requires you to physically mark the territory boundaries while channeling alpha power. You'll be vulnerable. There are at least a dozen wolves in this pack who want you dead. Cassia's already planning something, I guarantee it. And you can stop them? I can keep you alive long enough to complete the ceremony. He tilted his head slightly. After that, you're on your own. Unless I hire you? Unless you hire me. Kira laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. I don't have money. I don't have anything. Until this morning, I was cleaning chambers for copper coins." "You have the artifact," Daemon said softly. "That's payment enough. Once you're stable, once the power has settled, I need you to do something for me." "What?" "Use your anti-magic." Her blood went cold. "How do you know about that?" "Half the territory saw you shut down Cassia's shift. Anti-magic is legendary. Rare enough that most wolves don't believe it exists." His pale eyes seemed to see straight through her. "But I've seen it before. And I need someone who can do what you just did." "Do what, exactly?" "Break a curse." The way he said it, flat, emotionless, but with something underneath that might have been desperation in a less controlled man, made her pause. "What kind of curse?" "The kind that requires anti-magic to break. Will you hire me or not? Because you've got 5.5 hours before you start bleeding from your eyes, and I'm the only one in this territory with the knowledge to help you." Kira looked at the maps, at the artifact, at her shaking hands. Then she looked at Daemon, this scarred stranger who offered help with the same cold calculation as a merchant selling grain. She had no other options. "Fine," she said. "But after the ceremony, you tell me everything about this curse." "Deal." He extended his hand across the desk. She reached out to shake it. The moment their skin touched, pain exploded up her arm. Kira screamed, trying to jerk back, but Daemon's hand clamped around hers like iron. He was shouting something. She couldn't hear over the roaring in her ears. The burning sensation that had been simmering in her chest suddenly intensified 1,000-fold, and she felt something tear open inside her. Not physically. This was deeper. Soul deep. Light erupted from their joined hands. Not the silver of anti-magic, but gold and crimson twisted together like fighting serpents. The symbols appeared on their wrists simultaneously. Circular marks that looked like they'd been branded into their skin, glowing with the same gold-red light. And in the center of each mark, numbers appeared. 29, 47, 23, 29, 47, 22, 29, 47, 21, counting down. Daemon released her hand like she'd burned him, stumbling back with an expression of pure shock that transformed his controlled features into something almost human. "What?" Kira's voice came out as a rasp. The pain was already fading, leaving behind a strange warmth where the mark had appeared on her wrist. "What the hell was that?" "A blood contract." Daemon stared at his own wrist as if it had personally betrayed him. The artifact. It must have been keyed to form one. Ronan's last trick. "What does it do?" He looked up at her, and for the first time, she saw real emotion in those ice-colored eyes. "Fear. It binds us together for 30 days, he said quietly. "If the curse isn't broken by the time the countdown reaches 0, what happens? We both die." The words hung in the air between them like an executioner's blade. Kira looked down at her wrist, at the glowing numbers still ticking down. 29, 46, 58. 29, 46, 57. She'd gone from nobody to alpha to cursed in the space of a single day. "Can we break it?" she whispered. "I don't know." Daemon's jaw was tight. "Blood contracts are ancient magic, the strongest kind. Breaking one requires," he paused, "specific conditions." "What conditions?" "I'll need to research it. But first," he straightened, his soldier's mask sliding back into place. "First, we keep you alive through the claiming ceremony, because if you die in the next 5 hours, the contract kills me immediately. Understood?" Kira wanted to laugh, wanted to cry, wanted to wake up in her narrow bed in the servants' quarters and discover this had all been a nightmare. Instead, she said, "What do I need to do?" The claiming ceremony began at sunset, when the first stars were just beginning to emerge from the purple-orange haze of dusk. Kira stood at the center of the territory, a raised platform of ancient stone that overlooked the oasis where the pack made their home. Below her, hundreds of wolves had gathered, both her old Sunstone pack and Ronan's warriors, united now under her accidental rule. Most of them looked like they wanted her dead. You ready? Daemon stood at her right hand, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body. He'd changed into dark leather armor that had seen better days, and she counted at least 6 visible weapons on his person. No, she said honestly. Good. Fear will keep you sharp. The Elder Council approached. 5 ancient wolves who served as witnesses to all official pack business. The eldest, a woman whose white hair fell past her waist, carried a ceremonial knife on a velvet cushion. Alpha, she intoned, her voice carrying across the gathered crowd with preternatural clarity. Do you accept the burden of territory, the weight of pack, the bond of blood and earth? Kira swallowed hard. I do. Then let the claiming begin. The ritual was older than memory. She had to cut her palm with the ceremonial knife, press her bleeding hand to the stone platform, and channel alpha power into the earth itself. The magic would spread outward from this central point, touching every boundary marker, every border stone, every inch of territory that now belonged to her. In theory, it was simple. In practice, the moment the knife bit into her palm, Kira realized she had no idea how to channel anything. The power was there. She could feel it burning beneath her skin, huge and wild, and utterly beyond her control. But making it flow where she wanted, shaping it, directing it. She was drowning in the middle of an ocean, and someone had just told her to swim to shore. Focus. Daemon's voice came low beside her ear. Feel the earth beneath your feet, the stone beneath your hand. Let the power follow your awareness. I don't know how. Yes, you do. Your wolf knows. Let her lead. Kira closed her eyes and reached inward, toward the place where her wolf paced and snarled. The beast that had been quiet and small her whole life had grown massive in the hours since the artifact's power had flooded into her. Help me, she thought desperately. Her wolf's response was instantaneous. It surged forward, seizing control with savage glee, and suddenly, Kira understood. The power didn't need to be controlled. It needed to be released. She let go. Gold light exploded outward from her hand, sinking into the stone like water into parched earth. She felt it racing away from her, faster than thought, spreading across the territory in a wave that made every wolf below gasp and clutch their chests. The bond formed, hundreds of individual threads connecting her to each member of her new pack. She could feel them, their emotions, their locations, their very presence in her territory, like stars in a constellation only she could see. It was beautiful. It was terrifying. It was too much. Kira started to pull back, started to retreat from the overwhelming flood of sensation. And that's when the pain hit. Not the burning from before. This was sharper, more focused. Like someone had shoved a blade between her ribs and was twisting. She opened her eyes and looked down. The ceremonial knife was buried in her side, just below her ribs. And holding it, her face twisted in rage and grief, was Cassia. You don't deserve this, Ronan's widow hissed. You don't deserve any of this. The knife twisted deeper. Kira's vision went white. She heard shouting, felt Daemon moving, but it all seemed very far away. The bond threads were fraying, the golden light flickering and dying as her concentration shattered. If she lost focus now, the ceremony would fail. The power would consume her from the inside. She'd die anyway, just slower and more painfully. Cassia jerked the knife free, raising it for another strike. Silver flashed in the dying sunlight. Daemon's blade took Cassia's hand off at the wrist. The woman's scream was inhuman, a shriek of agony and disbelief as blood sprayed across the ancient stone. She collapsed, clutching the stump, and Daemon kicked the severed hand, still gripping the ceremonial knife, off the edge of the platform. The ceremony, he barked at Kira. Finish it! She was on her knees, one hand pressed to her bleeding side, the other still flat against the stone. The golden light was sputtering like a dying candle. If she let go now, Kira gritted her teeth and poured everything she had into the bond. The light flared one last time, racing to the final boundary markers, completing the circuit. She felt it snap into place, a sensation like a key turning in a lock, satisfying and final. The territory was claimed. The power settled into her bones like it had always belonged there. And then everything went black. She woke to pain and the smell of herbs. "Don't move," a voice said. Female, old, unfamiliar. "You've lost a lot of blood." The knife missed anything vital, but it was close. Kira's eyes fluttered open. She was in a room she didn't recognize, small, cluttered with drying plants and medicine bottles. A healer's workspace, an elderly woman with kind eyes bent over her, pressing a poultice against her side. "The ceremony?" Kira managed. "Complete. You're officially alpha of Sunstone Pack, for what it's worth." The healer's expression was wry. Half the pack wants to challenge you, the other half wants to run away. But the bond is set. They can't leave without your permission, and they can't challenge until you've had 3 days to recover. 3 days. Kira looked down at her wrist. The countdown mark was still there, glowing faintly. 28, 13 to 45. She'd lost an entire day. "Where's Daemon?" "The mercenary? Keeping watch. He hasn't left the door since he carried you in." The healer's eyes narrowed. "What's he to you?" "A business arrangement." That why you've got matching curse marks?" Kira had no answer for that. The healer finished bandaging her side and stood with a grunt. "You're lucky, girl. That blade was silver-edged. Another inch to the left, and you'd have been dead before you hit the ground." She paused at the door. "Cassia's been exiled. She'll have left the territory by now, or the bond would have killed her. But she's not your only problem." "What do you mean?" "Ronan had enemies. A lot of them. Word's already spreading that a nobody with anti-magic holds Sunstone now. They'll come." The healer's expression was grim. "Wolves who want your power. Wolves who want you dead. Maybe both. 3 days isn't long to prepare." She left before Kira could respond. The moment the door closed, Daemon entered. He looked like hell. His armor was blood-stained, his jaw was tight with exhaustion, and there were new scratches on his neck that suggested he'd dealt with more than just Cassia during the ceremony. "You're awake," he said unnecessarily. "How bad is it?" "The pack?" "Chaos. Half think you're blessed by the moon goddess, half think you're cursed. Nobody knows what to do with an alpha who can shut down magic." He moved to the window, staring out at the oasis below. "But you survived. That's what matters." "And Cassia?" "Exiled and missing a hand. She won't be a problem." "She'll come back." Kira pushed herself up carefully, wincing at the pull in her side. "With friends. With an army. Let her." Daemon's voice was cold. "She'll die like the rest." There was a story there, in the flatness of his tone, the way his hand rested on his sword hilt. Kira filed it away for later. "You said you needed research on the blood contract," she said instead, "to find out how to break it." "Yes. Where do we start?" He turned to look at her, and something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe. "You're not going to fight me on this? Insist we try to break it some other way?" "We've got 28 days, Kira said, gesturing to her glowing wrist. "That's not a lot of time, and I'm betting you already have an idea of where to look. The ancient ruins." Daemon's jaw tightened. 3 days' journey into the deep desert. The first wolves kept records there, tablets and scrolls dating back to before the packs. If there's information on breaking blood contracts, it'll be there. Then that's where we go. You just became alpha. You're wounded, half your pack wants you dead, and you want to leave? "I want to not die in 28 days, Kira corrected. "Everything else is secondary. Besides," she tried for a smile and only half succeeded, "you said it yourself. I'm not much of an alpha anyway." Something that might have been respect crossed Daemon's face. "You survived the claiming ceremony with a knife in your ribs. You're stronger than you think. Or stupider. Sometimes they're the same thing." A knock on the door interrupted whatever else he might have said. The grizzled warrior from the battlefield, the one who'd acknowledged her as Alpha, pushed his way in without waiting for permission. "Alpha," he said with just enough sarcasm to make the title an insult. "We have a problem." "Of course we do," Kira muttered. "What now?" "Scouts just returned from the southern border. There's an army camped 2 days from here." He paused, his scarred face grim. "About 3,000 strong, flying the banner of the Northern King." Kira's blood went cold. The Northern King, Alaric the Conqueror. She'd heard stories about him. Everyone had. He'd spent the last 5 years systematically taking over every territory between the mountains and the sea, absorbing pack after pack into his growing empire. "Why would he come here?" she asked. "We're barely a prize worth taking." The warrior's expression was carefully blank. "He's not coming for the territory, Alpha. He's coming for the artifact, and he's sworn to kill whoever holds it." Kira looked at Daemon, who'd gone utterly still by the window. "Did you know about this?" she demanded. He didn't answer. Didn't need to. She could see the truth in the rigid set of his shoulders, the way his hand had tightened on his sword. "You knew," she said flatly. "You knew Alaric would come, and you didn't tell me." "Would it have changed anything?" Daemon's voice was rough. "You'd still need to break the contract. You'd still need to go to the ruins." "I'd have—" She stopped. What would she have done? Hidden? Run? She had nowhere to go. "How long have you known?" "Since I saw the artifact in Ronan's possession 3 months ago." "And you didn't think to mention that the most powerful Alpha in 5 territories would come to take it?" "I thought I'd have more time." He finally turned to face her. "I thought I could get the artifact, break my own curse, and be gone before Alaric arrived. But then you absorbed Ronan's power, and the blood contract formed. And now we're stuck together," Kira finished bitterly. "Great. Just great." 2 days, the warrior said, drawing their attention back. "That's how long we have before Alaric arrives. What are your orders, Alpha?" Kira wanted to laugh. Orders? She barely knew how to lead herself, let alone an entire pack. But hundreds of wolves were counting on her now. The bond thrummed in her chest. All those lives connected to hers. "How many warriors do we have?" she asked. 300. Maybe 50 more if we count the adolescents and elders who can still fight. Against 3,000. They'd be slaughtered. "We can't fight him," Daemon said quietly. "Not head on. But we can disappear into the desert. Take the pack deeper into the wastes where his army can't follow. And leave our homes? Our territory?" The warrior's voice rose. "This is Sunstone land. My family has defended this oasis for 6 generations. Your family will be dead in 3 days if you stay." Daemon's tone was brutal. "Alaric doesn't take prisoners. He doesn't negotiate. He conquers and he kills anyone who resists." "He's right," Kira said, even though the words tasted like ashes. "We can't win this fight. Not yet. Not like this." She met the warrior's angry gaze steadily. "Give the order. Everyone packs essentials only. We leave at dawn." "Where are we going?" "The ruins," Daemon answered before she could. "It's the only place in the desert with enough shelter and resources to support this many wolves. And if Alaric wants the artifact badly enough to bring an army—" His expression was grim. "We need to find out why. The answers are in the ruins." The warrior looked like he wanted to argue, but after a long moment he simply nodded and left, leaving Kira and Daemon alone in the sudden silence. "You should have told me," Kira said quietly. "I know." "You lied by omission." "I know." "Is there anything else you're not telling me?" Daemon was quiet for so long she thought he might not answer. Then, yes. At least he was honest. Kira looked at the countdown on her wrist. 27, 58. 12. "Tell me on the road," she said. "We've got a lot of walking ahead of us, and I want to know everything, starting with why you really need to break that curse." His expression shuttered closed. "That's not part of our bargain." "The bargain changed the moment that blood contract formed. We're stuck together, Daemon, whether we like it or not. She stood carefully, testing her wounded side. The pain was manageable. So, you can tell me, or I can spend the next 27 days guessing. Your choice. He stared at her for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, he almost smiled. A small, bitter twist of his mouth. You're more dangerous than you look, little Alpha. I'm learning fast, Kira said. Now tell your people to pack. We march at dawn. My people? You're bound to me by contract. That makes you pack, whether you like it or not. She limped toward the door, pausing with her hand on the frame. Welcome to Sunstone, mercenary. Try not to get us all killed. She left before he could respond, though she swore she heard him laugh. A dark, rough sound that followed her into the night. They left Sunstone territory at dawn, a ragged caravan of 300 wolves, and whatever possessions they could carry. Kira rode at the front, not because she wanted to lead, but because the pack needed to see their alpha. Daemon rode beside her, silent and watchful, his pale eyes constantly scanning the horizon for threats. The countdown on her wrist read 27:03:47. Tell me about the curse, she said when they'd been riding for an hour. No. Tell me about Alaric then. Daemon's jaw tightened, but after a moment he spoke. Alaric the Conqueror, Alpha of the Northern Territories. He spent 5 years building an empire, absorbing smaller packs through conquest or coercion. Why does he want the artifact? Power. What else? Daemon's voice was flat. Every alpha wants more power. The artifact gives it to them. But you said you needed the artifact too. For your curse. He didn't answer. Kira studied his profile, the hard line of his jaw, the scars that covered every visible inch of skin. There was a story written in those marks. A painful one. Those scars, she said carefully. They're from torture, aren't they? His hand tightened on the reins. Drop it. No. She kept her voice low enough that the wolves riding behind them couldn't hear. We're bonded, Daemon. If you die, I die. I have a right to know what I'm dealing with. You don't want to know. Try me. Silence. Then so quiet she almost missed it. Silver and fire. For 6 months. Kira's stomach turned. Silver was poison to wolves. It burned, it seared, it left scars that never fully healed. And fire. Who did it? She asked. Someone I trusted. Why? Because I was in the way. He turned to look at her then, and the emptiness in his eyes was worse than any anger. Because I believed in something, and that belief was inconvenient. There was more there, so much more. But before Kira could push, one of the rear scouts came galloping up, her face pale with fear. Alpha, they're following us. Who? Alaric's vanguard, about 50 riders, moving fast. They'll catch us in an hour, maybe less. Daemon cursed viciously. He sent outriders ahead, probably been tracking us since we left. Can we fight them? Kira asked. 50 against 300? We'd win, but it would slow us down, and the main army would catch up while we're dealing with casualties. He looked at her. Unless what? You're anti-magic. Can you control it? Direct it at specific targets? I don't know. I've only used it once, and that was by accident. Then you need to learn. Fast! Daemon wheeled his horse around, shouting orders to the warriors. Set up defensive positions. Alpha's gonna try something. The pack scrambled to obey, forming a loose circle around Kira, while the elders and children moved to the center. Daemon dismounted and pulled her down from her horse, his hands firm on her waist. What am I supposed to do? Kira's heart was racing. The same thing you did with Cassia. Create a void, a sphere where magic stops. His eyes locked on hers. But this time, control the radius. Make it just big enough to catch our attackers, but not so big it affects our own warriors. That's impossible. I don't even know how I did it the first time. Yes, you do. Daemon's hands moved to her shoulders, grounding her. You felt threatened. Your wolf reacted. This time, direct the reaction. Shape it. Daemon, trust your wolf, Kira. She knows what to do. Thunder in the distance. Not weather. Hooves. The outriders were getting close. Kira closed her eyes and reached inward, toward the place where her wolf paced. The beast was wary, uncertain but willing. Help me, she thought. We need to stop them without hurting our pack. Her wolf's response was immediate. It surged forward and Kira felt the anti-magic rise up from somewhere deep in her chest. A void that wanted to expand, to swallow everything, to make all magic cease. She fought to control it, to shape it, to direct it outward. The outriders crested the dune. Kira opened her eyes and threw up her hands. The void exploded outward, but instead of a controlled sphere, it was a wave, a tsunami of nothingness that rolled across the sand like death itself. Every wolf it touched collapsed, their shifts reversing involuntarily, their magic simply stopping, including their own warriors. Pull it back, Daemon shouted. Kira, pull it back! She tried. God, she tried. But the anti-magic had a momentum of its own, and controlling it was like trying to hold back an avalanche with her bare hands. The wave reached the outriders. 50 wolves, mid-shift, suddenly couldn't. They stumbled and fell, howling in confusion and pain as their beasts were forcibly separated from their human selves. But the wave kept going. It swept over the desert, expanding and expanding, until Kira was sure it would consume the entire territory. A hand clamped around her wrist. The mark burned, and suddenly Daemon was there in her mind, his presence solid and unwavering. Together, his mental voice said. She felt him reach for the anti-magic, felt his own power, whatever it was, twining with hers. And slowly, impossibly, the wave began to recede. Not disappearing, but condensing, pulling back toward its source until it formed a sphere around them, no more than 30 feet across. The outriders lay scattered across the sand, conscious but unable to shift, unable to use their alpha commands. Trapped. Kira collapsed to her knees, gasping. The exertion had drained her completely. Her side was bleeding again, soaking through the bandages. You did it, Daemon said. He was breathing hard too, his hand still wrapped around her wrist where their marks met. Sloppy as hell, but you did it. How did you... She couldn't finish the sentence. The blood contract. It links us. I could feel what you were doing, so I... He paused, helped channel it. You can use anti-magic too? No, but I can feel yours. And I can lend you strength. He released her wrist, and the mental connection snapped closed. Come on. We need to deal with the outriders before the effect wears off. The grizzled warrior, his name was Marcus, Kira had learned, approached the downed riders with 30 armed wolves at his back. The outriders couldn't shift, couldn't fight back effectively. They were at the pack's mercy. Orders, Alpha? Marcus asked. Kira looked at the 50 wolves sprawled in the sand. Young, most of them. Following orders from a king who'd sent them to their deaths. Strip their weapons and supplies, she said. Then let them go. What? Marcus stared at her. They're Alaric's soldiers. If we release them, then they'll run back to their king and tell him what I can do. Kira's voice was steady despite her exhaustion. Let Alaric know that if he comes for us, he's facing an alpha who can shut down magic itself. Maybe he'll reconsider the cost. Or maybe he'll bring more soldiers, Daemon said quietly. Maybe, but killing 50 kids won't stop him either. She met Marcus's gaze. Let them go. That's an order. The warrior didn't look happy, but he obeyed. They watched the outriders flee into the desert, running on human legs, their wolves still locked away by residual anti-magic. It would wear off in a few hours. Until then, they were helpless. That was either very clever or very stupid, Daemon said. Probably both, Kira admitted. Help me up. We need to keep moving. He pulled her to her feet, steadying her when she swayed. Their marks brushed together and she felt that same flare of connection, his mind touching hers for just a moment. She pulled away quickly, disturbed by how natural it had felt. They rode hard for the rest of the day, pushing deeper into the desert. The landscape grew harsher, less oasis, more sand and stone and bones bleached white by the unforgiving sun. That night, they made camp in the shadow of a crumbling ruin, some ancient structure that predated the packs. Daemon set a watch rotation while Kira collapsed in the Alpha's tent, too exhausted to even remove her boots. She was almost asleep when she felt the mental knock. Not words, just a presence asking permission to enter her mind. Daemon. Cautiously, she lowered her mental shields. Can't sleep? His voice was clearer this way, without the rough edges his physical voice carried. Too much has happened. She paused. How are you doing this? Talking mind to mind. The blood contract. It allows mental communication between bonded partners. A pause. I should have mentioned it earlier. Add it to the list. But there was no real anger in her mental tone. She was too tired for anger. The move you made today, with the anti-magic, it was impressive. It was sloppy. You said so yourself. But you tried. And you succeeded, more or less. Another pause. You're learning fast, little Alpha. Stop calling me that. Would you prefer Your Majesty? Was he joking? Kira couldn't tell. I'd prefer Kira. Kira. He tested the name like he was tasting wine. It suits you. What does your name mean? Daemon. A long silence. Then, nothing good. Go to sleep, Kira. Tomorrow's going to be worse. How could it possibly be worse? We'll reach the deep desert tomorrow. No shelter, no water sources. Just sand and heat and things that want to kill us. Comforting. I'm not here to comfort you. I'm here to keep you alive. Why? The question slipped out before she could stop it. Really? Why? The blood contract gives you a reason, but you were tracking the artifact before that. You were planning something. What is it? Daemon was quiet for so long she thought he'd severed the connection. Then, I told you, I need to break a curse. What curse? Mine. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting tonight. His mental voice was final. Sleep, Kira. You'll need your strength. The connection closed, leaving her alone in the darkness. Kira touched the mark on her wrist. 26, 14, 22. 26 days to break a curse she didn't understand, bonded to a man who kept more secrets than he shared. This was going to end badly. She could feel it in her bones. The deep desert tried to kill them in 1,000 different ways. By day 3, they'd lost 2 elders to heatstroke and 1 young wolf to a venomous sand viper that had hidden in his bedroll. The pack was exhausted, supplies running low, and tempers shorter than the shadows at high noon. And Kira's control over the anti-magic was getting worse, not better. Again, Daemon said, his voice rough from lack of water. They stood apart from the main caravan, practicing in the pre-dawn cold while the pack still slept. Kira raised her hands, reaching for that void inside her, trying to shape it into a controlled sphere. The anti-magic exploded outward in a wave that made Daemon stumble. Damn it! She dropped her hands, frustrated tears stinging her eyes. It's not working. Because you're trying to force it. Anti-magic isn't like regular magic. You can't command it. You have to guide it. Daemon moved closer, his pale eyes studying her. What are you feeling right now? Anger, frustration, fear that I'm going to get everyone killed. That's the problem. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, he placed one hand over her heart. Anti-magic responds to certainty, not emotion. You're afraid, so it's afraid. You're angry, so it's chaotic. How am I supposed to be certain when I don't know what I'm doing? Fake it. His hand was warm through her shirt. Your wolf is certain. She knows exactly what to do. Stop fighting her. Kira closed her eyes and reached inward. Her wolf was there, pacing and restless, waiting. Show me, she thought. The wolf's response was immediate. It showed her the anti-magic, not as a weapon, but as a shield, something that protected rather than attacked. A boundary that said, this far and no further. Understanding clicked. Kira opened her eyes and raised her hands again. This time, instead of trying to control the void, she simply invited it. Shaped her intention and let the anti-magic fill it like water into a mold. A perfect sphere formed around them, 15 feet in radius, stable and controlled. Daemon stepped back, a rare expression of approval crossing his face. There, you've got it. How long can I hold it? Until your strength runs out. Anti-magic is costly. It drains life force the same way healing magic does. He studied the sphere with professional interest. How do you feel? Tired, but not like I'm dying. She held the sphere for another 30 seconds, then let it collapse. Better? Much better. By the time we reach the ruins, you might actually be able to fight with this. You think Alaric will follow us there? I think Alaric will follow that artifact to the ends of the earth. Daemon's expression darkened. The question is whether we can find what we need before he arrives. What exactly are we looking for? Information on blood contracts, how they're formed, what conditions can break them, and, he paused, other things. What other things? Before he could answer, a howl split the pre-dawn air. Not a warning howl. A death howl. They ran. The attack had come from the northern edge of camp. A pack of desert rogues, 20 strong, had fallen on the sentries. By the time Kira and Daemon arrived, 3 of her wolves were down, and the rogues were pushing deeper into camp. Shift! Marcus roared, already in his massive gray wolf form. The pack responded, wolves bursting from tents and bedrolls, shifting mid-leap to join the fight. It was chaos, snarling and screaming, and the wet sound of fangs meeting flesh. Kira reached for her anti-magic, and stopped. If she used it, she'd shut down her own pack's shifts, too. They'd be helpless. Daemon, I see it! He was already moving, his blade singing free of its sheath. Stay close and don't use the anti-magic unless I tell you. They plunged into the melee. Daemon fought like he'd been born with a sword in his hand, fluid and brutal, each strike placed with surgical precision. He wasn't trying to wound, he was trying to kill, fast and efficient. Kira had never seen anyone move like that. A rogue broke through the line, charging straight for her. She threw up her hands on instinct, the anti-magic flaring. The wolf collapsed mid-leap, his shift reversing as the void touched him. He hit the ground in human form, vulnerable and confused. Marcus's wolf was on him in seconds, jaws closing around his throat. Kira's stomach turned, but she forced herself to watch. This was war. This was survival. Another rogue. Another pulse of anti-magic. Another kill. She was getting better at controlling the radius, keeping it tight and focused so it only affected the enemies. But each use drained her more, and there were still so many. A massive black wolf tackled her from the side. They hit the sand hard enough to knock the air from her lungs. The wolf was huge, an alpha by the feel of his power, and his jaws were already descending toward her throat. Kira grabbed his muzzle with both hands and released everything. The anti-magic exploded outward in a sphere that caught the alpha wolf and 4 others. They all shifted involuntarily, suddenly human and naked and vulnerable. Daemon was there in a heartbeat, his blade finding the alpha's heart before the man could even stand. "Are you hurt?" he demanded, pulling Kira to her feet. "I'm fine. You're not fine. You're bleeding." She looked down. The wound in her side had reopened, blood soaking through her shirt. She'd torn something in the fall. The world tilted. Daemon caught her before she could collapse. "Marcus, finish them!" The grizzled warrior's wolf howled acknowledgement, rallying the pack for a final push. The rogues, seeing their alpha dead and half their number down, broke and ran. The fight was over in minutes. Kira slumped against Daemon's chest, suddenly too exhausted to stand. The anti-magic had drained her completely. She felt hollow, used up, like someone had scooped out her insides and left just the shell. "Healer!" Daemon was shouting, but his voice sounded far away. "Someone get a healer now!" "I'm fine," Kira mumbled. "Just tired. You're going into shock. Stay with me, Kira. Stay." Darkness swallowed her whole. She woke to firelight and the smell of blood. "There she is." An unfamiliar voice, female, middle-aged. "Easy, Alpha. You've been out for 6 hours. Kira's eyes focused slowly. She was in a tent, lying on a bedroll with fresh bandages wrapped around her ribs. A woman she didn't recognize sat beside her, crushing herbs in a mortar. "Who?" "Name's Vera. I'm the pack's best healer, though that's not saying much given our resources." The woman's smile was tired. "You lost a lot of blood. If you were human, you'd be dead. As it is, you're going to be weak for a few days. The pack lost 6 in the attack. Could have been worse." Vera's expression was grim. The rogues were after food and supplies, but they weren't expecting an alpha who could shut down shifts. Word's going to spread about that. Great. Just what she needed. A reputation as the alpha who broke wolves. "Where's Daemon?" "Outside, scaring the sentries. He hasn't left since we got you stable." Vera's eyes were sharp. "That's some bond you two have. Blood contract, I heard." "It was an accident." Powerful accidents, those." The healer stood, brushing herb dust from her hands. "You should rest. We reach the ruins tomorrow if the maps are right. You'll need your strength for whatever comes next." After Vera left, Kira lay in the darkness and stared at the tent ceiling. 6 dead. 6 wolves she was responsible for. The mental knock came softly. "Kira?" She lowered her shields. "I'm awake. How are you feeling?" "Like I got hit by a cart." "You?" "I've had worse." A pause. "You did well today. 6 wolves died, and 300 lived because you shut down those rogues. Don't diminish that. Is it always like this? Leading?" "Yes." No hesitation. "Every decision costs something. Every victory has a price. That's what it means to be alpha." "I don't want to be alpha." "You think I wanted this?" His mental voice carried an edge of bitterness. "You think any of us wanted the weight of other lives on our shoulders? But here we are." "Here we are," she echoed. Then, "Thank you for saving me. Thank you for saving me first. That anti-magic sphere caught 2 rogues that were about to take my head off. Partners?" "Partners." His mental voice was warm. "Sleep, Kira. Tomorrow we find answers." The connection faded, but its warmth lingered. Kira touched the mark on her wrist. 2342-17. 23 days to break a curse. 23 days to figure out why a scarred mercenary with too many secrets made her feel safer than she'd felt in years. 23 days before they both died. She closed her eyes and let exhaustion take her. The ancient ruins rose from the desert like broken teeth. Massive stone pillars that had once supported temples now lay scattered across the sand, half buried by centuries of wind and time. Carved symbols covered every surface, the language of the first wolves, older than memory. "It's huge," Kira breathed, staring at the sprawling complex. "This was the capital once," Daemon said quietly. "Before the pack scattered. Before territory became war." He pointed to a massive structure at the center, a pyramid-like temple that still stood mostly intact. "That's where the records are kept, the archive of the first wolves." The pack set up camp in the outer ruins while Kira, Daemon, Marcus, and Vera approached the temple. The entrance was a massive archway carved with wolf figures, some in human form, some shifted, some caught halfway between. "What does it say?" Kira asked, pointing to the symbols above the arch. Daemon read them slowly. "Here lies truth. Here lies death. Enter only if you dare face both." "Comforting," Marcus muttered. They entered. The interior was dark and cool, a welcome relief from the desert heat. But the darkness was wrong. It pressed against Kira's eyes like a physical thing, making shapes in the shadows that disappeared when she tried to focus on them. "Stay close," Daemon warned. "The first wolves were fond of protective magics. This place is warded against intruders." "How do you know so much about this place?" Kira asked. He didn't answer. They descended through a series of chambers, each one filled with more carved symbols and ancient artifacts. Kira could feel magic thrumming through the stone. Old magic, powerful magic, the kind that made her anti-magic stir restlessly in response. Finally, they reached a massive door carved with the phases of the moon. "The archive," Daemon said. He stepped forward and pressed his palm against the full moon symbol. Nothing happened. "It requires alpha blood," he said. "Your turn." Kira pressed her palm against the stone. The symbol flared with golden light, and the door groaned open, revealing a chamber beyond that took her breath away. Thousands of stone tablets and ancient scrolls filled the space, organized in neat rows that stretched back into darkness. The walls were covered in murals depicting the history of the wolf packs, their creation, their golden age, their fall. "This is..." She couldn't find words. "Everything," Daemon finished. "Every secret, every history, every piece of magic known to the first wolves. It's all here." He moved deeper into the archive, scanning the tablets with practiced ease. "We're looking for anything related to blood contracts, binding curses, or..." "Or what?" Kira pressed. He stopped at a shelf marked with symbols she couldn't read. "Or dark magic, the kind that steals thrones and enslaves minds." There it was again, that hint of something deeper, something personal. "Daemon." Kira caught his arm. "Who cursed you?" "Really?" He looked at her, and for the first time she saw the mask slip, saw pain and rage and grief all tangled together in those pale eyes. "My brother," he said simply. The words hung between them. "Your brother cursed you?" "My brother stole everything from me." Daemon's voice was flat, emotionless in the way of things too painful to feel. "My throne, my pack, my mate." He pulled his arm free. "Now help me find the information we need, or we both die in 23 days. He walked away before she could respond. Kira stood frozen, mind reeling. Throne, pack, mate. Daemon wasn't just some mercenary. He was an exiled king, Marcus said quietly. He'd been standing near the entrance, and she'd forgotten he was even there. "I thought I recognized him, but I wasn't sure until now." "How do you know?" "Because I'm old enough to remember when the Northern Kingdom had 2 princes. Marcus's scarred face was grim. Daemon the Just and Alaric the Ambitious. Twin brothers, both alphas, both with equal claim to the throne. Their father couldn't choose between them, so he decreed they'd rule together, a dual kingship. What happened? Alaric got tired of sharing. Used dark magic to bind the minds of the entire royal council, made them believe Daemon was a traitor. They tortured him for information he didn't have, then exiled him to die in the desert. Marcus paused. The mate he mentioned. She tried to speak for him. Alaric had her executed for treason. Kira's stomach turned. And now Daemon wants revenge. Can you blame him? She couldn't, but understanding his motivation didn't make their situation any less complicated. "The artifact," she said slowly. "That's what he needs, isn't it? To break whatever magic Alaric used on the council. If I had to guess, yes." Marcus studied her. Question is, what are you going to do about it? What do you mean? You're Alpha now. That artifact is yours by right of blood. If Daemon wants to use it, he needs your permission. The warrior's eyes were sharp. So do you trust him enough to give it? Knowing he'll use it to start a war? Kira didn't have an answer. They spent hours searching through the archive, translating ancient texts and cross-referencing symbols. Vera found a section on healing magics. Marcus discovered a detailed history of territorial wars. And Daemon found exactly what he was looking for. Here. He laid out a series of tablets, his expression grim. Blood contracts, formation, conditions, and breaking methods. They gathered around as he translated. A blood contract forms when two alpha essences are forcibly bound through magical means, usually an artifact or ancient ritual. Once formed, the contract cannot be broken by normal means. The bonded pair will die simultaneously after exactly 30 days, unless, he paused, unless specific conditions are met. What conditions? Kira asked. There are 3. Daemon's finger traced the symbols. First, true love's bond. If the contracted pair discover they are fated mates and complete the mating ceremony before the deadline, the contract transforms into a permanent mate bond. Kira's heart stuttered. Fated mates. The moon goddess's gift. A perfect match of souls that happened once in 1,000 years. The chances of her and Daemon being fated mates were... Second condition, Daemon continued without looking at her. Blood sacrifice. One of the bonded pair willingly offers their life to save the other. The contract accepts the sacrifice and releases the survivor. That's not an option, Kira said firmly. Agreed. Third condition, the breaker's ritual. If both bonded individuals travel to the site of the first moon, the place where the moon goddess first blessed the wolf packs, and perform a ritual with the artifact that bound them, the contract can be severed. Both survive, the bond is broken, and they're free. That sounds too easy, Marcus said. It is. Daemon pulled out another tablet. Because the site of the first moon is in the northern territories, in the heart of Alaric's kingdom. Getting there would mean walking into enemy territory with no guarantee we'd survive the journey, let alone the ritual. So our options are, become fated mates, die for each other, or suicide mission into hostile territory. Kira laughed bitterly. Great. There's one more thing. Daemon hesitated, then showed them a final tablet. If the contracted pair attempts to separate beyond a certain distance, about 50 miles, the curse activates immediately. Both die within hours. So we're stuck together, Kira said. Literally. Until we find a way to break it. Yes. The implications settled over them like a shroud. They couldn't separate, couldn't run. And the only real option for breaking the contract meant traveling straight into the arms of the man who wanted them both dead. How long until Alaric's army reaches the ruins? Vera asked quietly. 2 days, Daemon said. Maybe 3 if we're lucky. Once he figures out we came here, he'll know about the archive. He'll want to destroy it. Can't risk other wolves learning the secrets of the first wolves. Then we need to copy as much as we can, Kira decided. Everything on blood contracts, anti-magic, dark magic, anything that could help us fight him. And we need to plan our route to the northern territories. You're going to do it? Marcus looked surprised. The suicide mission? Do we have a choice? Kira met Daemon's eyes across the tablets. If we stay here, Alaric kills us. If we run, the contract kills us. At least this way, we're moving toward a solution. A solution that puts you directly in your enemy's path, Daemon said. He wants the artifact, Kira. If he catches us, then we make sure he doesn't catch us. She was surprised by how steady her voice sounded. You know the northern territories. You know Alaric's weaknesses. We have an entire pack of warriors, and an alpha who can shut down magic. Those are better odds than sitting here waiting to die. Daemon studied her for a long moment. Then, slowly, he nodded. All right. We leave in 3 days. Gives us time to rest and prepare. The journey will take approximately 2 weeks if we push hard and avoid Alaric's patrols. That leaves us with, Kira checked her wrist, 20 days to complete the ritual. Assuming we survive that long. Always such an optimist, she muttered. That pulled a ghost of a smile from him. Someone has to be realistic. They spent the rest of the day, and all of the next copying tablets, translating records, and learning everything they could about the magic that bound them. Kira discovered her anti-magic was even rarer than she'd thought. Only a handful of wolves in all of history had possessed it, and most had been hunted down and killed because other alphas feared what they could do. Daemon, meanwhile, found detailed records of the dark magic Alaric had used. Mind-binding, they called it. A forbidden magic that enslaved the will and made the victim believe the caster's lies as absolute truth. Breaking it required either the caster's death or a direct application of anti-magic to every affected individual. That's why he wants you dead, Daemon said quietly, reading over her shoulder. You're the only threat to his control. If you reach the capital and use your anti-magic on the Royal Council, they'd remember the truth. Remember you. Kira looked at him. You could take your throne back. Maybe, if we live that long. He turned away, but not before she saw the pain flash across his face. For now, focus on survival. Everything else is secondary. That night, Kira dreamed. She was in a throne room she'd never seen, massive and ornate, with columns of white marble and windows that let in silver moonlight. 2 men stood before a golden throne, identical in features, but opposite in bearing. One radiated warmth and strength and justice. The other smiled with charming cruelty. You can't have it all, brother, the cruel one said. Alaric, she realized. Father chose us both. That means I get half. I never wanted half, the warm one, Daemon, replied. I wanted partnership, balance. There is no balance in shared power, only weakness. Alaric's smile widened. But don't worry, I'll fix that. The scene shifted. Now Daemon was chained in a cell, silver burning his wrists and ankles. A woman stood beyond the bars, beautiful, with kind eyes and dark hair. His mate. I won't let them do this, she said. I'll tell them the truth. You'll die if you try, Daemon said hoarsely. Please, Mara, please just go. Forget about me. Never. Tears streamed down her face. I'll fix this. I promise. She never got the chance. The next scene showed her body hanging in the public square, a placard around her neck that read, Traitor. Kira woke with tears on her own face. The mental knock came immediately. Kira? She lowered her shields. I think I saw your memories. In my dreams. A long pause. The blood contract. It's linking us more deeply than I thought. I'm sorry for what happened to her. To Mara. Don't be sorry. Be smart. His mental voice was hard. This is what Alaric does. He takes everything you love and destroys it. That's why we can't fail. That's why we have to reach the first moon and break this contract before he finds us. And then what? You go after him alone? That's not your concern. You're wrong. Kira sat up, ignoring the pull in her healing side. The contract links us, Daemon. That means your fight is my fight. Your brother is my enemy too. He's hunting us. He wants the artifact. He'll kill my entire pack to get to you. So stop acting like you're alone in this. I am alone. The words were bitter. Everyone I've ever cared about died because of me. Mara, my best warriors, my friends, all dead because they stood by my side when Alaric decided he wanted everything. Then maybe it's time to stop being alone. She touched her wrist mark. We're bonded, whether we like it or not. 20 days, Daemon. We have 20 days to either break this curse or die together. I'd rather face it as partners than as strangers. She felt his emotions through the bond. Surprise, wariness, and underneath it all, a desperate loneliness he'd been carrying for years. Partners, he echoed finally. But don't blame me when this all goes to hell. Too late. I already blame you for the blood contract. That was an accident. Tell it to my glowing wrist. She could have sworn she felt him laugh through the bond. Sleep, Kira. Tomorrow we start planning the most dangerous journey of your very short life. Can't wait, she thought sarcastically. But as the connection faded and sleep took her again, she realized something that should have terrified her. She trusted him. Daemon, scarred, secretive, broken. Daemon had somehow become the person she trusted most in the world. The countdown on her wrist read 22-18-44. 22 days to break a curse, or die trying. Alaric's army arrived at dawn on the third day. They came like a flood. Thousands of warriors in perfect formation, their armor glinting in the rising sun. War banners snapped in the desert wind, bearing the sigil of the Northern Kingdom. A crowned wolf with silver eyes. Kira stood on the highest point of the ruins, watching them approach with her heart in her throat. 3,000, Marcus said beside her. Maybe more. He brought his entire force. He really wants this artifact, she murmured. He wants you dead. Daemon appeared on her other side, his expression grim. The artifact is secondary. You're the real threat. Below, the pack was already moving, following the evacuation plan they'd practiced for the last 2 days. Women and children first, then elders, then warriors in a protective ring around the vulnerable. They'd leave through the southern ruins and head deeper into the wastes, toward a hidden canyon Daemon remembered from his years of exile. How long can you hold them? Marcus asked. Long enough for the pack to get clear. Daemon's hand rested on his sword. After that, Kira and I run. Lead them away from the pack, toward the northern territories. That's suicide. It's strategy. Alaric wants us, specifically us. If we run, he'll chase. That gives you time to get everyone to safety. And if he catches you, he won't. The confidence in Daemon's voice was absolute. Not yet. Not until we're ready. A horn blast echoed across the desert. Alaric's army was close enough now that Kira could make out individual faces. The king himself rode at the front, mounted on a massive white horse, his armor ornate and his posture perfect. He looked exactly like Daemon. Same features, same build, same pale gray eyes. But where Daemon's expression was carefully controlled, Alaric's held open cruelty. Where Daemon's scars spoke of survival, Alaric's unmarked skin spoke of a man who'd never faced real consequences. Brother, Alaric's voice carried across the sand, magically amplified. I know you're there. Come out, come out. Let's talk like civilized wolves. Don't, Marcus warned when Daemon tensed. I'm not going to. Daemon's jaw was tight. But I need to buy time. Keep the pack moving. Don't stop until you reach the canyon. Understood? Understood, Alpha. Daemon blinked. I'm not. You're bonded to our Alpha, Marcus interrupted. That makes you pack. That makes you Alpha too, whether you want the title or not. He clasped Daemon's shoulder briefly. Keep her safe. We'll handle the rest. He left before Daemon could respond. He's right, you know, Kira said quietly. You're pack now. I don't want to be pack. Too bad. You're stuck with us. She touched her wrist mark. 21-16-33. Come on, we need to get into position. They'd prepared for this, set up defensive positions throughout the ruins, placed traps and barriers, created multiple escape routes. It wasn't enough to win, but it might be enough to survive. The army stopped just outside arrow range. Alaric dismounted gracefully and walked forward alone, a show of confidence that made Kira's teeth grind. Little Alpha, he called. I don't believe we've been introduced. I am Alaric, king of the Northern Territories, lord of... I know who you are. Kira shouted back. What do you want? What do I want? Alaric laughed. I want what's mine, of course. That artifact your predecessor stole from my territory. Return it, and I'll let you and your pathetic pack live. Liar, Daemon breathed beside her. He'll kill them all the moment he has the artifact. I figured, Kira raised her voice. The artifact stays with me. Leave now, or face the consequences. Consequences? Alaric's smile widened. My dear child, I have 3,000 warriors. You have barely 300, and most of those are civilians. What consequences could you possibly— Kira threw up her hands and released the anti-magic. The wave rolled across the sand, catching the front ranks of Alaric's army. 100 wolves collapsed, their shifts reversing involuntarily, their magic simply stopping. The entire army staggered. That consequence, Kira said coldly. I'm anti-magic, King Alaric. Every wolf I touch loses their beast. Every alpha command fails. Every magical bond breaks. So ask yourself, how many warriors are you willing to sacrifice before you give up? The silence was absolute. Then Alaric began to laugh, a terrible sound, full of genuine delight. Oh, you magnificent creature, my brother found himself quite the prize, didn't he? His eyes, so like demons but so different, locked onto their position. But anti-magic or no, you can't hold that for long. I can see you shaking from here, so let me make you a better offer. I'm not interested in— Demon! Alaric's voice cracked like a whip. Come down here and face me, brother, one-on-one combat. You win, I leave. I win, you give me the artifact and the girl. Don't, Kira said immediately. It's a trap. Of course it's a trap. Daemon's expression was unreadable. But it's also our best chance. If I can keep him occupied, you can get the pack clear and run. You can't beat him alone. I don't have to beat him. I just have to survive long enough for you to escape. He looked at her, and something in his eyes made her chest tight. Your pack now, Kira. That means I protect you, no matter the cost. That's not how this works. We're partners, remember? We face things together. Not this time. He touched her wrist mark briefly, a gesture that was almost tender. Get everyone to safety. Find the site of the first moon. Break the contract. His voice dropped. Live, Kira, for both of us. Then he was gone, leaping down from their position and striding toward his brother before she could stop him. No! Kira tried to follow. Marcus caught her arm. Let him do this. He'll die. Maybe. But if you go down there, you'll definitely die. And so will the rest of us. The warrior's grip was iron. Trust him, Alpha. Trust that he knows what he's doing. Below, the brothers faced each other in the space between armies. Well, well, Alaric said. The prodigal prince returns. You look terrible, brother. What happened to that pretty face of yours? You happened. Daemon's voice was flat. Silver and fire, remember? Your interrogators were very thorough. Interrogators? Alaric's expression was innocence itself. I'm sure I don't know what you mean. You were tried for treason, found guilty, and exiled. All very proper and legal. You enslaved their minds with dark magic, made them believe lies. Prove it. The challenge hung between them. What are the terms? Daemon asked finally. Simple. We fight. No magic, no tricks, just skill and strength. You win, I take my army and leave. I win. You give me the artifact and that delicious little alpha of yours. She's not mine to give. Then I'll take her anyway. Alaric drew his sword, a beautiful weapon that probably cost more than entire territories. Ready, brother? Or do you need a moment to say goodbye? Daemon drew his own blade. Let's finish this. They clashed. Kira had thought Daemon was skilled, had seen him fight rogues and survive impossible odds. But watching him fight his brother, she realized she'd only seen a fraction of his true ability. They moved like dancers, like water, like death itself. Every strike was met with a perfect parry. Every feint was anticipated. They were perfectly matched, the same training, the same instincts, the same brutal efficiency. But Alaric was fresh and well-fed and uninjured. Daemon was exhausted from weeks of travel and still healing from old wounds. It was only a matter of time. "The pack's almost clear," Marcus said in her ear. "We need to go." "Not without him." "Kira, I said not without him." Below, Daemon stumbled. Just slightly, but enough. Alaric's blade sliced across his ribs, drawing blood that looked black in the harsh sunlight. Kira felt it through the bond, a spike of pain that stole her breath. "If he dies," she gasped, "the contract kills me too. We're linked, Marcus. I can't leave him." The warrior cursed. "Then we need to get him out of there." "How?" "Create a distraction. Something big enough that Alaric's attention shifts." Kira's mind raced. A distraction. Something big. Something... The anti-magic. If she used it at full power, released every bit of control, she could create a void large enough to catch Alaric's entire army. They'd all lose their wolves simultaneously, chaos enough to cover an escape. But it would drain her completely. She might not survive it. "Do it," she decided. "Alpha..." "That's an order, Marcus. Get everyone ready to run. The moment I release the void, you grab Daemon and you run. Don't stop. Don't look back. Get to the canyon and wait for us there." "What about you?" "I'll catch up." Probably a lie. "Go. Now." Marcus hesitated, then nodded and slipped away to relay orders. Kira closed her eyes and reached deep, down to the core of her anti-magic, the void that lived in her chest, hungry and patient and absolutely devastating. "I need everything," she told it, "everything you've got." "One massive wave. Can you do it?" The anti-magic purred in response. Below, Alaric was toying with Daemon now, landing light cuts, drawing out the fight, enjoying his brother's pain. "Not so mighty now, are you?" Alaric taunted. "Where's all that justice you used to preach? All that honor?" "Still here." Daemon blocked another strike, barely. "Still standing." "Not for long." Alaric's next strike was aimed to kill. Kira opened her eyes and threw her hands forward. The anti-magic exploded outward like a supernova. The wave was massive, 50 feet, 100 feet, 200, expanding in a perfect sphere that caught everything in its radius. Alaric's army collapsed as 3,000 warriors, suddenly unable to access their beasts. The magical amplification on Alaric's voice died. Every alpha command, every bond, every scrap of magic within that sphere simply stopped. Including the brothers' weapons, both blades were magically enhanced, and now they were just steel. Kira poured everything into maintaining the void. Every scrap of strength, every drop of life force. She felt her body beginning to give out, felt her vision graying at the edges, felt her heart stuttering in her chest. Just a little longer, she told herself. Just long enough. Marcus's warriors burst from hiding, grabbing Daemon and hauling him back toward the ruins. Alaric tried to follow, stumbling in the anti-magic void, shouting orders nobody could hear without magic to carry his voice. The pack ran. Kira held the void for 10 seconds. 20. 30. At 45 seconds, her legs gave out. The void collapsed. Magic rushed back into the world like a tidal wave. Alaric's army recovered, confusion turning to rage. The king himself was screaming orders, pointing at the fleeing pack. An arm wrapped around Kira's waist, hauling her up. "Stubborn," Daemon gasped. He was covered in blood, barely standing himself, but his grip was iron. "Stubborn, reckless, absolutely insane." "Shut up and run," she mumbled. They ran. Behind them, Alaric's roar of fury shook the very air. "Find them! I want them alive!" The hunt was on. They ran for 3 days straight. through the deep desert, across salt flats that burned like fire under the merciless sun, into canyons so narrow their shoulders scraped the walls. Alaric's army pursued relentlessly, always just hours behind, close enough that they could hear the war horns echoing across the wastes. Kira pushed through exhaustion that went bone deep. The anti-magic wave had nearly killed her. She could still feel the hollowness in her chest where she'd drained too much life force. Only the bond kept her going. She could feel Daemon's strength flowing through their connection, supporting her when her own body wanted to collapse. On the fourth day, they reached the canyon. It was perfect, a hidden ravine with only one entrance, surrounded by cliffs too steep for an army to scale. Natural springs provided water, and the pack had already set up a defensive perimeter. "Rest," Marcus ordered the moment they stumbled into camp. "Both of you, you look like death." "Alaric," Kira started, "is 3 hours behind us, yes. We have sentries posted. We'll know if he gets close." The warrior's expression was grim. "But you two are no good to anyone if you collapse. Sleep, eat, recover. That's an order from your beta." "Since when are you beta?" Daemon asked. "Since your mate made me swear to keep you both alive." Marcus's use of the word mate was deliberate. "Now get in that tent before I have Vera sedate you." They were too exhausted to argue. The tent was small but private, one of the few perks of being alpha. Kira collapsed on the bedroll immediately, not even bothering to remove her boots. Daemon sat heavily beside her, working on the buckles of his armor with hands that shook from fatigue. "Let me," Kira said, sitting up with effort. "I can do it. Shut up and let me help." He did, surprisingly. She helped him remove the leather plates, wincing at the fresh wounds beneath. The cut Alaric had given him was deep, still seeping blood despite the hasty bandaging. "You need a healer," she said. "I need sleep. Healing can wait." "Daemon, I'm not dying, Kira. The bond would have killed you already if I was in real danger." His eyes met hers. "But thank you, for the distraction, for saving my life. You would have done the same." "Yes." No hesitation. "But that doesn't make what you did any less brave. Or stupid." "Can't it be both?" He almost smiled. "With you? Always." They lay down side by side, too tired even to be awkward about the proximity. The countdown marks on their wrists glowed softly in the dim tent. 18, 42, 19. 18 days left. "We need to talk about the route," Daemon said quietly. "To reach the site of the first moon, we'll have to cross directly through Alaric's territory, the capital city, the heart of his power." "I know. There's no going around it. The first moon is located beneath the royal palace, in the sacred chamber where the moon goddess first appeared to the wolves. Convenient. Intentional. The first wolves built the capital around that site deliberately. It's the most protected, most sacred location in the entire kingdom. So we have to sneak into the royal palace, get to the sacred chamber, and perform a ritual while Alaric's entire army hunts for us." Kira laughed tiredly. "Sure, why not? What's a little breaking and entering between enemies?" "I know the palace," Daemon said. "I grew up there. There are passages, secret ways that Alaric doesn't know about. Ways I could use to get us in and out without being detected." "Could?" "If they haven't been discovered and sealed in the 5 years since my exile." "That's not very reassuring." "It's the only option we have." He turned his head to look at her. "Unless you want to try for the fated mate's route." There was something in his voice, not quite joking, not quite serious. "Are we?" Kira asked softly. "Fated mates?" "I don't know." His eyes were steady on hers. "The bond makes it hard to tell. What I feel for you, is it real, or just the contract forcing connection? Does it matter?" "Yes." The word was fierce. "Because if this is real, if you're truly my fated mate, then I need to tell you something." "What?" "Everyone I've ever loved has died. My parents, Mara, my best friend. My most loyal warriors. His voice was rough. Alaric destroys what I care about. It's his favorite weapon. So if this bond is real, if what I'm starting to feel for you is... He stopped. You're in more danger than you know. I'm already in danger, Kira pointed out. Alaric wants me dead with or without the mate bond. This is different. If he finds out you're my fated mate, he won't just kill you. He'll make you suffer first. He'll use you to break me, the way he used Mara. Daemon's hand found hers in the darkness. I couldn't bear that, Kira. I couldn't watch you die because of me. Then don't let me die. She squeezed his hand. Fight with me. Protect me. Let me protect you. That's what partners do. You're very stubborn, little alpha. I learned from the best. They lay in silence for a while, hands still linked. For what it's worth, Daemon said quietly, I hope we are fated mates. Even knowing the danger. Even knowing how it'll probably end. He paused. Because these past few weeks with you, running, fighting, surviving together, they've been the first time I've felt alive since exile. Kira's heart did something complicated in her chest. I feel it too, she admitted. The pull. The certainty that being near you is right, even when everything else is chaos. I don't know if it's the contract or fate or just desperation, but it feels real. Yes. Then we'll call it real, Daemon decided, for however long we have left. He pulled her closer, and she went willingly, tucking herself against his side, despite the awkwardness of two people who'd barely touched beyond fighting and running. His heart beat steady beneath her ear, and for the first time in days, she felt safe. The mental knock came gently. Sleep, Kira. I'll keep watch. You need sleep too. I will. After you. Stubborn. You like it. She couldn't argue with that. Sleep took her fast, and for once her dreams were gentle, full of moonlight and running through forests with a silver wolf beside her, both of them free and whole and together. They left the canyon 2 days later, taking only a small group with them. I don't like this, Marcus said for the 15th time. Splitting the pack makes us vulnerable. Keeping the pack together makes us a target, Kira countered. Alaric wants me and Daemon. If we're not here, he has no reason to attack the canyon. You'll be safe. And you'll be walking into the heart of enemy territory with 6 warriors and a prayer. 7 warriors, Daemon corrected, and a very detailed plan. The plan was insane, but it was the best they had. Travel fast and light, avoiding Alaric's patrols by sticking to the wilderness routes only locals knew. Reach the capital city under cover of darkness. Use the secret passages to infiltrate the palace. Perform the ritual in the sacred chamber. Escape before anyone realized what they'd done. Simple. Except for the 1,000 ways it could go wrong. If you're not back in 15 days, Marcus said, I'm leading a rescue mission. If we're not back in 15 days, we're dead, Daemon said bluntly. The contract will have killed us. There's no point risking more lives. He's right, Kira added, even though the words tasted bitter. If we fail, take the pack and run. Go south, toward the coast. Start over. That's an alpha's order, Marcus. The warrior's jaw was tight, but he nodded. Understood. They left at sunset, Kira and Daemon, plus 6 of the pack's best warriors. Vera came too, insisting someone needed to keep them from bleeding out. The artifact stayed with Kira, tucked in a leather pouch at her belt, its weight a constant reminder of what they were fighting for. The journey was brutal. They traveled by night and hid by day, sleeping in caves and abandoned ruins while Alaric's patrols passed overhead. Twice they had to use Kira's anti-magic to slip past enemy scouts, and each time it drained her more. The hollow feeling in her chest was growing, a constant reminder that she'd pushed too hard, used too much, and her body was still trying to recover. On the 5th night they crossed into Northern Territory. Kira felt it the moment they passed the border, a shift in the air, a heaviness that pressed against her skin. This was Alaric's land, saturated with his alpha presence. Every wolf here would be bound to him, loyal through blood and magic. Stay alert, Daemon warned. From here on, everyone is an enemy. They moved through forests that should have been beautiful, but felt corrupted, trees growing in twisted shapes, streams running with water that tasted wrong. The dark magic Alaric used had poisoned more than just minds. It had poisoned the land itself. "This is horrible," Vera whispered, staring at a patch of flowers that had grown black and skeletal. What kind of monster does this to his own territory? The kind who cares more about power than anything else, Daemon said flatly. They pressed on. By the 8th day, they could see the capital in the distance, a sprawling city built of white stone that gleamed in the sunlight. From far away, it looked beautiful. Up close, Kira could see the guard towers, the patrol routes, the heavy military presence that spoke of a kingdom on war footing. "The palace is at the center," Daemon explained, sketching a rough map in the dirt. 4 walls, 4 gates, constant patrols. The sacred chamber is beneath the throne room, accessible only through a hidden passage that starts in the royal archives. "How do we get to the archives?" Vera asked. "Through the servants' tunnels. I used them as a child to sneak around when I wanted to avoid my tutors." A ghost of a smile. Alaric never bothered learning the layout. He thought such things were beneath him, but I mapped every passage, every hidden door. "And you're sure they're still there?" "No, but it's our best chance." They waited until deep night, when the city's bustle had quieted and the patrol schedules shifted. Then, wrapped in stolen cloaks, and with their alpha presence suppressed as much as possible, they slipped through the outer gates. The city was huge, tens of thousands of wolves living in close quarters, the scent of pack bonds so thick it was almost choking. Kira kept her anti-magic tightly controlled, afraid that even a small leak would alert the guards to their presence. They made it 3 blocks before disaster struck. A patrol turned a corner unexpectedly, and there was nowhere to hide. The lead guard's eyes widened in recognition as he saw Daemon's face. Kira's hand shot out, releasing a focused burst of anti-magic. The guards collapsed, their shifts reversing, their weapons clattering to the cobblestones. But the noise had been loud enough to draw attention. Shouts echoed from nearby streets. "Run!" Daemon grabbed Kira's hand, pulling her into a narrow alley. They ran through the twisting streets, the warriors covering their rear while more guards poured out of buildings. Kira's anti-magic flared again and again, buying them seconds each time, but she could feel herself weakening. "The passages!" Daemon shouted, dragging them toward a nondescript building. "In here!" They burst through a door into what looked like an abandoned shop. Daemon went straight to a wall panel, pressing on specific stones in a pattern Kira couldn't follow. A section of wall swung inward, revealing a dark tunnel. "Go! Everyone in!" They plunged into darkness just as the guards burst through the front door. Daemon slammed the secret panel closed, and suddenly they were in absolute blackness, hearts pounding, trying to breathe quietly while boots thundered overhead. "Did they see?" Vera whispered. "I don't know," Daemon admitted, "but we need to move. Now. These tunnels connect all over the city. If we're fast, we can reach the palace before they organize a proper search." They moved through the darkness, Daemon navigating by memory and touch. The tunnels were old, full of cobwebs and the smell of damp stone. More than once, Kira felt things scuttling across her boots that she chose not to think about too closely. After what felt like hours, but was probably minutes, light appeared ahead, torchlight filtering through cracks in stone. "The palace," Daemon breathed. "We made it." They emerged in a storage room filled with old furniture and forgotten supplies. Beyond the door, they could hear voices, servants going about their evening duties, guards making rounds. "The archives are 2 levels up," Daemon said, "and there's no way to get there without crossing the main corridors. We'll have to time it carefully." What followed was the most stressful hour of Kira's life. They moved through the palace like ghosts, timing their movements to the patrol schedules Daemon remembered, hiding in alcoves and empty rooms whenever footsteps approached. Kira kept her anti-magic ready, prepared to shut down any magic users who discovered them. They made it to the archives without being detected, a vast library filled with ancient texts and records. Daemon went straight to a specific bookshelf, pulling volumes in a sequence that made another hidden door swing open. "The royal passages," he said quietly, "used by kings for centuries when they needed to move unseen. This one leads directly to the sacred chamber." They descended into deeper darkness, following a spiral staircase that seemed to go down forever. The air grew colder, and Kira began to feel something. A presence, ancient and powerful, that made her wolf whine with equal parts reverence and fear. "The moon goddess's blessing still lingers here," Daemon said softly. "This is the holiest site in all the territories, where she first appeared to grant us the gift of shifting." Finally, the stairs ended in a massive chamber carved from living rock. It was beautiful. The walls were covered in luminescent crystals that provided a soft, silvery light. A pool of perfectly still water dominated the center, water so clear it looked like liquid moonlight. And above the pool, carved into the ceiling, was an enormous representation of the full moon. "This is it," Kira breathed. "The site of the first moon." "Yes." Daemon moved to the pool's edge, pulling out the artifact. It began to glow the moment it came near the water, responding to the lingering divine presence. "According to the tablets, we need to submerge the artifact in the sacred pool, while both touching it and speaking the breaking words." "What are the breaking words?" He showed her the translated text he'd copied from the archive. The words were in the ancient language, but he'd written a phonetic guide beside them. "We say them together," he explained, "at the exact same moment. And we have to mean them, really mean them. The magic will know if we're lying or uncertain." Kira read the translation. "It's beautiful," she said. "It's final." Daemon's expression was unreadable. "Once we say these words, the contract breaks. We'll no longer be bonded. We'll be free to go our separate ways." "Is that what you want?" "I don't know what I want anymore." He looked at her across the glowing artifact. "A month ago, I wanted revenge, justice, my throne back. Now He stopped. "Now I'm not sure any of that matters as much as making sure you survive." "Daemon, but I won't trap you, Kira. Not with a forced bond. Not when you have the chance to be free." His voice was rough. "So we'll say the words, break the contract, and then you can decide, without magical compulsion, without the threat of death, what you really want." Her heart ached at the careful control in his voice, the way he was clearly preparing for her to choose freedom over him. "And if what I want is you?" she asked softly. His breath caught. "Then I would count myself the luckiest wolf alive. But I need you to be sure. I need you to choose me freely, not because a curse forced us together." "Okay," Kira said. "Then let's break it, and I'll show you what I choose." They positioned themselves on either side of the pool, both holding the artifact, their hands touching where they gripped the ancient sphere. The countdown marks on their wrists glowed brighter than they ever had. 9:23, 47, the numbers ticking down relentlessly. "Ready?" Daemon asked. "Ready." Together they lowered the artifact into the sacred pool. The water exploded with light. It wasn't violent. It was transcendent. Pure, silvery radiance that filled the entire chamber. So bright Kira had to close her eyes against it. She felt the presence of something vast and ancient. Not quite the moon goddess herself, but an echo of her power, still lingering in this sacred place. "Now!" Daemon's voice was strained. "Say the words." They spoke in unison, voices blending. The light intensified. Kira felt something tearing in her chest, not painful, but profound. The marks on their wrists began to dissolve, the glowing numbers fading. The light reached a blinding crescendo and vanished. The chamber plunged into darkness lit only by the soft glow of the crystals. The artifact sat at the bottom of the pool, dormant and powerless. And on their wrists the marks were gone. No countdown, no glowing numbers, no bond. They were free. Kira looked across the pool at Daemon, and her chest felt suddenly, terrifyingly empty. The constant presence of his emotions, his strength, his mind, all of it was gone. She was alone in her own head for the first time in weeks. "It worked," she said, and her voice sounded hollow. "Yes." Daemon stared at his unmarked wrist. "The contract is broken." They stood in awkward silence, neither quite sure what to do now. Then footsteps echoed from above. Many footsteps, and voices, shouting orders. "They found us," Daemon said grimly. The door at the top of the stairs burst open, and soldiers poured down. Dozens of them, armed and armored. And leading them, descending with casual confidence, was Alaric himself. "Well, well," the king said, smiling his terrible smile. "My brother and his little Alpha, cornered like rats in my sacred chamber. How delightfully poetic." "Hello, brother," Daemon said calmly. Too calmly. "Took you long enough to find us." "Oh, I knew you were here the moment you entered the city." Alaric gestured casually, and his soldiers spread out, surrounding the pool. "Did you really think I wouldn't be alerted when my guards were found collapsed with their magic shut down? When half the city saw a group of strangers running through the streets?" "You were waiting for us to reach the chamber," Kira realized. "You wanted us to come here." "Very good." Alaric's smile widened. "You see, the sacred chamber is the one place in the entire kingdom where my own magic is limited. The moon goddess's blessing prevents the use of dark magic here. Very inconvenient for someone like me." His eyes gleamed with malice. "But if my dear brother was going to attempt something foolish, like breaking a blood contract, this is where he'd have to do it. So I simply waited." "What do you want, Alaric?" Daemon's hand was on his sword. "What I've always wanted. Everything." The king's gaze shifted to Kira. "Starting with that anti-magic of yours. Do you have any idea how valuable you are, little Alpha? How many problems you could solve for me?" "I'm not interested in solving your problems." "No? Not even if I offered to spare your pack? Let them live in peace, unmolested, if you agree to serve me?" "Liar," Kira spat. "You don't make deals. You take and destroy." "Clever girl." Alaric's expression never changed. "You're right, of course. I was going to kill them anyway. But I thought I'd give you hope first. It's more fun that way." Daemon moved then, a blur of motion as he drew his sword and launched himself at his brother. Alaric was ready. His own blade met Daemon's with a clash that rang through the chamber, and suddenly the brothers were fighting again, just like in the ruins, but closer, more desperate, more vicious. The soldiers moved to intervene. Kira threw up her hands and released the anti-magic. The void exploded outward, catching every soldier in its radius. They collapsed immediately, their shifts reversing, their magical weapons becoming useless. But Alaric and Daemon were outside the sphere, still fighting. "Kill her!" Alaric roared to the soldiers still outside the anti-magic range. They tried. But the warriors who'd come with Kira and Daemon, loyal wolves who'd stayed hidden until now, emerged from the shadows and engaged them. The sacred chamber erupted into chaos. Kira held the anti-magic sphere, pouring everything she had into maintaining it. Without the blood contract supporting her, it was harder. The drain on her life force was immediate and terrible. She could feel herself weakening by the second. But she held. The brothers fought with the intensity of years of hatred made flesh. Blow after blow, neither giving ground, both bleeding from a dozen wounds. They were too evenly matched. This could go on forever, or end in mutual destruction. "I have to help him," Kira thought. But how? If she collapsed the anti-magic sphere, the soldiers would overwhelm them. If she kept it up, she'd die from the drain. There was no good option. Unless... An idea struck her. Insane, dangerous, but possibly brilliant. She'd never tried to move while maintaining the sphere. Never tried to direct it as a weapon rather than a shield. But the anti-magic was hers to command, and desperation made her bold. Kira began walking forward, carrying the void with her. The soldiers still standing stumbled back, terrified of the moving zone of nothingness that approached them. Kira pushed through them, heading straight for the fighting brothers, her eyes locked on Alaric. "Daemon!" she shouted. "Get clear!" He understood instantly, broke away from his brother and threw himself to the side. Kira lunged forward, thrusting her hands toward Alaric. The anti-magic touched him. The king's eyes went wide with shock as his magic simply stopped. Every spell he'd been preparing, every enhancement on his armor and blade, every scrap of alpha power, all of it vanished. He was just a man, flesh and blood, and totally vulnerable. Daemon's blade found his brother's heart. "For Mara," Daemon said quietly. "For everyone you destroyed." He pulled the blade free. Alaric collapsed, blood spreading across the white stone floor. His eyes were still open, still aware, as death came for him. You think this changes anything?" he gasped. "The council still believes I was right. They won't for long." Kira moved closer, letting her anti-magic wash over the dying king. "Every wolf you bound with dark magic is about to be freed. They'll remember the truth. Remember what you did." "No." Alaric's hand reached out weakly, grasping at nothing. "No, I was supposed to win." "You were supposed to fail," Daemon said coldly. "Tyrants always do." They watched him die. When it was over, when the last breath left Alaric's body, and his eyes finally went empty, Daemon stumbled back like he'd been punched. "It's done," he said. "It's finally done." Kira let the anti-magic collapse. The sudden absence of that constant drain made her dizzy, and she swayed. Daemon caught her before she could fall. "Easy," he murmured. "I've got you." The remaining soldiers, seeing their king dead and their magic returned, made a choice. One by one, they dropped their weapons and knelt. "Prince Daemon," the eldest said, "true king of the northern territories. We remember now. We remember what really happened. How he lied. How he..." The soldier's voice broke. "Forgive us. We didn't know. The magic made us believe." "I know," Daemon said quietly. "And I forgive you. All of you. Alaric's crimes were his own, not yours." "What are your orders, Your Majesty?" Daemon looked at Kira. "What do you think, little Alpha? Should I take back my throne?" She studied his face, the exhaustion, the grief, the relief all mixed together. "Do you want to?" "I don't know." He laughed softly. "I spent 5 years dreaming of this moment. But now that it's here, all I feel is tired and sad. He was my brother, Kira. Despite everything, he was my brother." "I know." She touched his face gently. "But you were also a good king once. Your people need you." "My people need healing. They need someone who can undo the damage Alaric caused." He paused. "They need an alpha who can detect dark magic, who can free the wolves still bound by his spells." Understanding dawned. "You want me to stay?" "I want you to choose." Daemon's voice was soft. "The contract is broken. You're free. You can take your pack and go anywhere you want. Build a new life far from all this." He paused. Or you could stay. Help me rebuild. Rule beside me as..." He stopped, something vulnerable flickering across his face. "As my mate, my queen, my partner in all things." Kira's heart was pounding. "Is this real? Without the contract, without the forced bond? Is what you feel for me real? Yes. No hesitation. I know it's fast. I know we barely know each other. But Kira, when I thought I might lose you, when the contract was about to break and I didn't know if you'd stay, his voice roughened. I knew. I love you, freely, completely. And if you'll have me, I promise to spend the rest of my life proving it. She should think about this, should be cautious and careful and make the smart choice. Instead, she kissed him. It was their first real kiss. No interruptions, no danger, no curses hanging over their heads. Just two wolves who'd found each other in the middle of chaos and decided to hold on. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Kira said, I love you too. And yes, I'll stay. Yes, I'll help you rebuild. Yes, to all of it. Daemon's smile was the most beautiful thing she'd ever seen. Your Majesties, one of the soldiers ventured. What are your orders? They looked at each other and laughed, partly from relief, partly from the absurdity of going from cursed fugitives to king and queen in the space of an hour. Send word to the council, Daemon said, his voice taking on the natural authority of a born leader. Tell them their true king has returned. Tell them the dark magic is broken. Tell them, he pulled Kira close. Tell them we're coming home. The coronation took place 3 weeks later. In that time, Kira had traveled throughout the Northern Territories, using her anti-magic to free every wolf still bound by Alaric spells. Hundreds of them, their minds suddenly clear after years of magical compulsion. The gratitude and relief on their faces made every exhausting day worth it. Marcus brought the pack north, and they integrated smoothly with the northern wolves. Sunstone territory officially joined the kingdom, creating a unified territory larger than any had seen in generations. And now, standing in the throne room where she'd first seen Daemon's memories, Kira prepared to become queen. You ready? Daemon asked, magnificent in royal blue and silver. Terrified, Kira admitted. She wore a gown the color of moonlight, with crystals sewn into the fabric that caught the light with every movement. What if I'm a terrible queen? Impossible. You're already the most beloved alpha in the kingdom. He took her hand. And you'll have me beside you. Always. The ceremony was beautiful. The high priestess of the moon goddess performed the rites, blessing them both and declaring them true, king and queen by divine right and popular acclaim. When the crowns were placed on their heads, Daemon's platinum, Kira's gold, the assembled wolves roared their approval. The celebration lasted 3 days, but on the 4th day, as they sat together in the royal gardens, Daemon said, There's something I need to tell you. What's wrong? Kira asked immediately, noting his serious tone. Nothing's wrong, but do you remember the 3 ways to break a blood contract? True love's bond, blood sacrifice, or the breaker's ritual. She paused. We did the ritual. That's how we broke it. Yes, but there was something in the ancient texts I didn't tell you. Daemon took her hand, turning it over to reveal her wrist. The mark was gone, but as he traced his finger across the skin, a faint silver light appeared. Barely visible, but definitely there. Blood contracts that are broken through the breaker's ritual can reform. If the 2 individuals involved, he paused, if they're actually fated mates, the bond comes back. Different from the contract, but real. Kira stared at the faint glow. We're fated mates? Truly? The moon goddess knew all along. Daemon showed her his own wrist, where a matching silver glow was beginning to appear. We were always meant to be together. The contract was just the universe's very aggressive way of making sure we didn't miss each other. So we're still bonded? Not like before. This is a mate bond. Natural, unbreakable, eternal. His eyes searched hers. Is that okay? I know you chose freely, but... She kissed him to shut him up. It's perfect, she said against his mouth. It's fate. It's everything. The mate bond settled into place between them. Not forced, not counting down, but warm and constant and absolutely right. Kira stood on the balcony overlooking the capital city, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and crimson. The kingdom had healed remarkably well in half a year. The dark magic's corruption was fading from the land, plants growing green again, water running clear. The wolves who'd been freed from mind-binding were building new lives, and Daemon ruled with the perfect balance of justice and mercy that had made him beloved before his exile. She felt him approach before he spoke, the mate bond always told her when he was near. "Hiding?" Daemon asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "Thinking." She leaned back against him, perfectly content. "About everything that's happened. How a month ago I was nobody, and now I'm queen of the Northern Territories." "You were never nobody," he corrected. "You were always extraordinary. You just needed the chance to prove it. We make a good team. The best." He kissed her temple. "Speaking of teams, there's something I need to tell you." "What?" "The healer confirmed it this morning. You're pregnant." Kira spun in his arms, eyes wide. "What? How? I know how, but about 6 weeks along, apparently." Daemon's smile was radiant. "We're having a child, Kira. An heir." She should probably be panicking. They'd only been mated for 6 months. The kingdom was still recovering. There was so much work to do. Instead, she laughed, pure, joyous, utterly happy. "A baby," she said wonderingly. "Our baby." "The first of many, if you're willing." He rested his forehead against hers. "I love you, my mate, my queen, my everything." "I love you too," Kira whispered. "My king, my partner, my fate." The sun set behind them, painting the kingdom in gold, while inside the palace, plans were already being made for a royal nursery. The stolen Alpha had become a queen. The exiled king had reclaimed his throne, and together they'd built something neither could have achieved alone, a kingdom of justice, a partnership of equals, and a love that would echo through generations. The moon goddess, watching from above, smiled.